Now, Muhammadu Buhari's presidency here in Nigeria started on May 29, 2015. Already, the main opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, says he is slow and reneging on many promises he made during the campaign for the presidency. Is this the change Nigerians voted for, they ask? Well, hello and welcome. This is 60 Minutes with me, Angela Ajitomobi. Thank you for joining me on the program today. Now, add to that the problems already surfacing in the All Progressives Congress, the APC. On June 9, 2015, the Senate elected its president, Bukola Saraki, representing Kwara State, against the directives of the party as far as the candidates for the seat of the Senate president and his deputy is concerned. Furthermore, Southwest Professionals Forum is complaining that most of the appointments by President Buhari seem lopsided in favor of the North, apart from his special advisor on media and publicity, Femi Adesina, who's incidentally from Osun State, that's the Southwest geopolitical zone. President Buhari is accused of appointing only people of northern extraction. It would appear that in spite of the large contributions of the former Lagos governor Bola Tinubu and the All Progressives Congress in delivering the presidential seat to President Buhari, their efforts are not being appreciated. The Southwest expects more in terms of appointments from this administration. Will the All Progressives Congress, the APC, survive these times, the APC as we know it today? So, join me after the break as I count down 60 minutes with Jimi Disu, my favorite political commentator of all time. Welcome back. Welcome, Mr. Disu. Thank you very much for coming back on the program.
You keep dragging me in and out of this, but it's always fun to be with you.
Thank you.
You should do this more often, actually.
Yes, every quarter. You notice?
Every quarter. Yeah.
I'll be bringing you on the program.
Yeah.
So, do you think this APC party, the All Progressives Congress, will survive these crises it's going through at this time? People are disappointed, saying it is not managing the success it has achieved so far in removing an incumbent president and finally making it into the presidential villa.
Well, they will survive because, like I cynically say, I'm a bit of a cynic. There's a large honeypot there that everybody wants to lick from. And therefore, it's a question of, am I allowed to use a shovel? Am I allowed to use a teaspoon?
Yes.
Or can I lick it with a toothpick? Can I use my finger and stuff like that? So essentially that's what it is.
Okay.
That's the bottom line. The APC in itself, from the beginning, in reality, there's no APC. What you have is a conglomerate of various interests, whose main interest in the first instance was to get rid of
the PDP.
The PDP.
When people say that, does that mean that in planning to get rid of the PDP, they didn't have a plan going forward?
I think that each one of them had his own hidden agenda.
Yes.
What has happened now is that everybody's gone back to the trenches, the various groups, the CPC group on the other hand, the northern interests on the one hand, the original ACN on the one hand, and then within the ACN itself, what I would call the Jagaban group on the other hand. And even within that Jagaban group itself, you have quite a number of them who are there, not so much that they believe in their leader, but they see him as a means to an end. I mean, so all these interests are now coming to the fore. Everybody is now asking, okay, this honeypot is there, what am I going to lick it with? Am I going to scoop it with my hands? Am I going to use a shovel to take what is mine? And so on and so forth. So in a nutshell, in general terms, that is what it is. It's all a struggle. It's not so much for power, but for the honeypot. That's
for the resources.
For the resources. So why would you, for example, read in the papers that some fellow wants that his demand is that 3 or 4 ministries he should nominate people to, including
to those ministries. Yes.
Why would you want to nominate people? I mean, what is it all about? There's an ulterior motive in everything that's being done. I mean, I don't understand these things. You've contributed your quota to the party. You're a central figure. Fair enough. That's what politics really should be.
Yes.
I'm not saying sit back then and do nothing. No.
Yes.
But you must realize that there are varied interests.
Now,
Not just at the party, but generally across the board.
you know, the APC is a conglomerate of about 5 parties.
Yeah.
But it looks like the old ACN feels more entitled than the others. Do you agree with that?
If you ask me from the outside, because politicians never tell themselves the truth, the bulk of Nigerians that I know and from the feelers that I got, in the course of our job,
Yes.
they voted for Muhammadu Buhari,
Not
for the APC. If those who felt that they contributed the most should put themselves forward for election and let's see what will happen. It was Buhari that people voted for.
So if Buhari had been in Labour Party,
if he had been in Labour Party and he could gather people around, this was a man who won 12 million votes without any resources, virtually.
in 2011,
In 2011, in Buhari's CPC, people go for meetings and contribute. As to the other way around, where you go for political meetings here for example,
Yes.
and you're given puff and samosa and a loaf of bread and a can of soft drink and whatever.
Yes.
We must admit that yes, some people contributed to it. I mean, he couldn't have done it alone.
Yes.
But he is the one that people voted for. Let that be clear to everybody. Not even the ACN. And we should always remember that this victory is nationwide. Yes, we must concede that without the Southwest, he couldn't have done. But that doesn't diminish the fact that the man himself was of good standing. It wasn't as if somebody went to bring one unknown Jimi Disu and then he suddenly became president. That's not what happened here.
Yes.
That's not what happened when they brought our good friend BRF, for example, and nobody knew him.
Yes.
And he won the elections. That's not what happened. The man won the election on merit.
do you think the crisis in the APC was simmering until that election in the Senate?
I don't even see it as a crisis. I think that from the onset, it was a bad union. But people were focusing on the honeypot, especially with the PDP group.
Yes, that came in. The group of 5.
The group of 5. Like you say in Yoruba, what Foju Jola, they don't look. I mean, they don't have common interest. The common interest they had is power. Okay, and now that power has come through the hands of God and Buhari, everybody is now jostling to make sure that this is what I came here for in the first instance. So none of them is interested in the party. Least of all Saraki. You can see from his body language, he couldn't be bothered.
But you think he will leave the party now?
I don't think
at this time.
The way it will go, Angela, is he will continue where he is. The party can't even afford to remove him. Saraki needs just 6 senators from the APC to be
Senate president.
And he has his three from Kwara who will go wherever he goes, and another 3 from Kogi. Is good to go.
I think a lot of people, myself inclusive, are shocked that the party, even now into the month of July, still seems to be angry about the emergence of Saraki and Dogara, as if they're not members of the APC.
I was going to ask you a question that who are the party? Saraki is part of the party. You must admit that. He's not part of the ACN group, but he's the top gun in the APC.
Yes, but wasn't there a list from the party? I mean, are we saying that the list from the party is not really the party as we know it?
Look, some people ascribe the ownership of this party to themselves. Let me be very blunt.
Yes.
The ACN people,
yes,
they ascribe it's as if, but
they own the APC.
You don't own this party anymore, and everybody has equal rights. And so the will of the majority must prevail. You should have known that before you went to this union. And then if whatever you want, you must be ready to bargain. They're not going to get it as of right. Okay, look, you're talking about Saraki's election. What about the House of Reps, the full house?
Yes.
There is nothing in the world that does not change on a daily basis, except the will of God. And ironically, you find that a lot of the people in the ACN, they won't say it publicly, but they're happy at the development. They'll call you aside and I'm telling you,
they're happy at the
comeuppance. Let's call a spade a spade.
Yes.
Everybody is worried about the power that Bola Tinubu wields. And I had said when Buhari won that this is the height of his political career. This is when the ovation is loudest.
Yes.
He has to be careful
going forward.
See what has happened now. His influence and relevance, at least as I'm sitting down here today, has been diminished. Whether he can build it up again, I don't know.
Yes, but when you say that a lot of people are worried about the power that Bola Tinubu wields, who allowed him to wield the power? People sat idly by and watched him wield the power.
If I had a bottle of champagne, I give it to you. You use the word idly. You have to recognize that this gentleman, right from his Nadeko days, had been doing a lot of things that other politicians will sit back and let him do. He's been spending his time, he's been spending his money. Yes, he must be recognized, but they're not going to have him being chairman of a party anymore.
No, but you see, and that's another point.
Yes.
This title of national leader,
yes,
I've always raised the issue that without formalizing his position within the party, doesn't he do a great disservice to himself? Because at the end of the day, look at the NEC meeting, you know, when only those who were entitled to attend would attend.
Yes.
The constitution of the APC never recognized the post of a national leader.
You can do all these things for what I call political rascality. But when push comes to shove and the whatever hits the fan and we now spread everything out, you'll be found exposed.
Yeah.
Only the national leader of the party by implication and by convention is the president.
Yes, but Lai Mohammed said in public
Yes.
that the president was not the leader of the APC.
I completely disagree with him, and I know he was trying to espouse Tinubu's position. The president is the leader of the party. It's done all over the world. It's not by law, it's by convention.
Yes. That's the highest post.
Who else would lead the president? You see,
is the party trying to say that somebody within the party can be higher than the president?
And that tells you, if the spokesperson of the party is telling you that the president is not the leader of the party, my sister, things have fallen apart completely. That means he even doesn't recognize Buhari as the leader of the party. And that is a very, very sad development. Obama is the leader of all over the world. They always quick to say the governors are leaders of the party at state level.
States.
Because this man is not theirs, in quotes, I think his statement was absolutely unfortunate. And I am sure that somewhere along the line, he would have regretted it, or he might in the future.
He had tried to make
because
clarification.
Because one day he will be called to question to say, but you said these are things you don't say. I think he was caught in the heat of emotion.
Yes.
Because generally, Alhaji Lai Mohammed is a very guarded person. You know, he's always composed, but I think they caught him off guard.
Do you agree that the Southwest is not being favored in terms of appointments?
What does it do to the general public, for example, if Southwest is being favored or not? Usually you find it's the political people that complain about these things because it's contract and jobs for their people and so on and so forth. However, having said that, there is also a bit of sensitivity in these issues. I know that Buhari hasn't made all his appointments, but in the midst of all these crises, in the heat of what we have, if out of 9 appointments, 8 are from the north,
yes,
that is definitely worrying. And I think it's insensitive on his part. Okay, he might mean well, we understand that, but we are what we are.
Yes.
But to the man outside there, all he wants is a good environment. All this idea about our people being there, what does it do? Very little. They go there, fill the pockets, and fill the pockets of their relatives and their girlfriends and their associates and so on and so forth. Yeah. But I also believe that because of who we are, we should be a bit more sensitive in these things. The appointments have just started. The honeypot at federal level, my God, is enormous.
It's awesome.
Awesome. There's enough for everybody to lick from, be it with a spoon, with a toothpick, with your pinky finger, whatever.
Yes.
You know. Yeah, I think the president should be a bit more sensitive about those appointments.
Do you think he should have intervened in the National Assembly crisis? People are saying that, you know, in not intervening, he's leaving himself exposed, especially in terms of 2019.
It's only the naive who believes that the president hasn't intervened. Of course, but he's the biggest beneficiary of this current situation.
How?
I'll tell you this. We had always had one fear. You see, there's what you call the law of constant reminders, where if somebody helps you, you really don't want to see that person hovering around you, reminding you,
behind your back,
reminding you that you know. I'd always ask myself how Buhari would feel if he felt, I'm using the word, if he felt that the Senate President and the House of Reps, who are the two people who could put a banana peel for him to sleep on and get out of the way, were Tinubu's people who helped him become president. So Buhari is the biggest beneficiary of this current situation, right? Because everything is in his favor. He doesn't have much of a problem with Saraki because they're both northerners, okay? And that the northern interest is well protected and so on and so forth.
Yes.
I mean, so I think it is naive for anybody to think that the president hasn't, of course he'll be intervening, not just on a daily basis, on an hour-by-hour basis. He has enough aides, you know, you understand, that's the way it works.
Making calls privately.
Private calls and, you know, but he's the biggest beneficiary. Once all this is going on, he's getting himself well organized. So what it shows is that the biggest problem will come when we see that ministers list. And it's going to go to the Senate and the House of Reps, where Saraki is the leader. So that tells you something.
These are interesting times.
Yes, it tells you something because our man apparently has an interest, if anything, in who comes from the Southwest. But Buhari too has his own people that he's worked with in the Southwest.
That he likes?
That he likes. For example, I found it very, very embarrassing to pick up a copy of The Nation owned by Tinubu and see a disparaging article on Fayemi and on Fashola. These are
two former governors.
These are our first 11. They've been working with Buhari all along. So why would anybody, for example, if the minister is going to come from Lagos State, it has to be him. Buhari is now the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He's not the president of the APC. He's not the president of the PDP.
Or the North.
If Dora Kunyili were alive and she's a member of the PDP, there would be nothing stopping him from bringing her to come and work in his government. And we're at a very, very critical stage, very close to Greece. So we have to bury the hatchet and move this country forward. That's what should be prevalent on our minds.
Join us again after the break.
It is difficult to respond to that question.
Angela, that's a great question.
Great question, Angela.
Angela, that is a very great question.
That's a great question.
Okay, that's a great question.
Yeah, very good question.
That's a good question.
This is an interesting question you put.
60 Minutes with Angela. Gain answers to every question you always wanted to ask.
Welcome back. If you've just joined us, it's 60 Minutes with me, Angela Jitumobi. On my hot seat today, Jimi Disu. Do you agree that President Buhari so far is slow?
Well, by people's expectations, he is. By my expectation, he is.
Were people expecting a knight in shining armor riding in on a white horse?
In politics, there are what you call quick wins. And I have it on good authority that 30 quick wins were put together for the president. That is a statement a day for 30 days.
Yes.
Because don't forget that when you rule people, it's more by perception than reality.
Yes.
It's something in between. You need to motivate them. So Nigerians expected certain actions. I find it completely inexcusable that he doesn't have a chief of staff. I don't know how he's doing it. I've heard people say, oh, he has people who can carry out that function. And I say to them, and you're a lawyer, you know, if you don't have legal backing in the things that you do, you're going to have a problem. That was shown now, for example, with the security forces fighting
each other
over who should do what. You have a chief of staff in place, the presidency should work seamlessly. And this is the way I look at it. If I was going to run for president or governor or whatever in another 4 years, as we speak, I'd have 2 to 3 people. I'll be saying to myself, okay,
one of you will
be chief of staff, even if I don't tell them myself. And by the time the election actually gets into place, I'll be calling somebody and saying, look, we're in this together. You're going to be my chief of staff.
Yes.
That's the way I think it should have gone. Now, the question to now ask is, was the president actually ready for governance? Does he have the skills of modern governance? Time will show us that. Let me tell you the questions I've been asking myself.
Yes.
Does he have the skills for modern governance in a democratic setting? 2, the success we ascribed to him many years back.
Yes.
Who did the job? Was it him or was it Idiagbon? Because he's the only military ruler that we have in history who gave his subordinate a lot of leeway.
Yes.
He did the same thing at the PTF. You remember the government was called Buhari Idiagbon, as if they were married. Of course, that's illegal. It was called Buhari Idiagbon. So I'm asking, was it Idiagbon who did the job then? This is the real test for Buhari.
Yes.
The earlier he settles, he gets himself settled in certain appointments. Those appointments are very key. Chief of staff should have been with him from day one. Because your chief of staff, he holds the fort. Then, not long after that, he should have had his secretary to the government. Now, all he has are the previous government's permanent secretaries and so on and so forth. He's still using the previous government's NSA.
Yes.
Still using some of the officials.
But if I agree with you that perhaps in the past, he wasn't the one really driving the thing, it was Idiagbon. What's so wrong with that if he's taking his time to assemble a team that will deliver on governance in a democratic setting?
He says that he's trying to study the report given to him before he makes his appointment.
Yes.
I would have said, for example, let's assume that I was going to be president and I'm going to get reports. I know that I'm going to be looking at reports, for example, in your field, in the legal area. What does he know? I'm going to be needing somebody to do that. That is why he should already have an Attorney General and Minister of Justice. If you have set up your core team and they are now studying the report, I would agree with that.
Yes.
But you can't get people privately, put them together. They will not be committed.
Ad hoc.
That's not the way governments are run. I don't think that's an excuse for not having a cabinet.
Yes.
You don't have to announce all your ministers at the same time. Some key ministries that you know you are going to have, defense, you strongly need a Minister of Justice, you strongly need a Minister of Petroleum Resources.
And you need your secretary to the
You need your
government.
secretary to the government. These are very key issues. And it's going to be exposed at some point. He's played into the hands of the civil servants. They will run circles around him. By the time he looks back, he'll be surprised at what he'll get. I think he looks slightly unprepared.
Slightly
unprepared. And I'm trying to be polite here. It might be a smaller example, but you look at the thought processes. Look at how prepared El Rufai is.
Yes.
He announced his
He
chief of
has
staff.
hit the ground.
He announced his chief of staff before he was sworn in. He announced his secretary to the government. He's gotten everybody in place quick. That's the way it should be.
We've talked about how there are about 5 different interests in the APC. Is he factoring all that in?
My sister, let me tell you.
Because so far, look at all the appointments. They seem to be more, leaning towards the north. So would that be the reason why he's now...
No, in fact, it's the delay that is causing all that. I repeat what I would have said, that your chief of staff, for starters, is your personal person. I'm not going to become president and somebody is going to impose it. A chief of staff that is somebody that I know so well.
Yes, it comes into your bedroom.
It comes into your bedroom. It's too close.
Yes.
Your chief of staff is somebody you know so well.
Yes.
You know his antecedents. He or she. Sorry, I have to be gender sensitive.
So you think the magic that Nigerians were expecting, is not looking likely now?
What I discover is that Nigerians just love Buhari. First of all, they are glad that Jonathan is gone. I'm more than glad that he's gone.
Why?
Look at all the revelations that are coming out. I shudder to think of what would have happened if that gentleman was in the driver's seat as we speak.
But some people still wanted him.
That's the beauty of democracy. People want him for various reasons. Some people want him because they're both from the Niger Delta. Some people want him because he's a southerner. Some people want him because he's a Christian. But for those who know, even those who know who want him, check them out, is for their personal benefits. The man just didn't have the capacity. There's nothing wrong with that. He just didn't have the capacity,
But you say Nigerians love Buhari?
They love Buhari, and therefore you find things like give him time. And also, they've been so browbeaten that they're just hoping that they can't afford to admit to themselves that they made a mistake. Well, it wasn't a mistake because they were between a rock and a hard place. But they can't admit to themselves that, look, the horizon. But a lot of people are worried. They're worried about all this political infighting and so on and so forth, maneuverings here and there, various interests, the Atiku group.
I'm sorry to divert you now, because you've mentioned Atiku.
Yes.
You think, the Atiku group will take over as the main caucus of the APC?
They could, because the morning shows the day. One, Shehu Gaba, his appointment, he was Atiku's spokesperson.
Yes.
It is on authority that Buhari always wanted additional. How Atiku Shehu Gaba on him, I don't know. It was Atiku who represented the president at the mosque.
Yes.
When he was being sworn in. The president should have been there. It was Atiku he sent to South Africa when they wanted to lobby for
Akin-Adesina.
So that tells you, one thing I've noticed about politicians of the northern extraction, they don't talk too much. Very strategic in their moves. They slither through. Okay?
So when he spoke last week, or when
Atiku
he spoke
supported
recently,
Saraki.
Yes, he spoke recently and said members of the party should learn, the leaders of the party should learn to be more centrist.
You have to be. Look, when you, for example, you want to appoint a Senate leader, the Senate president, whether you like him or not, is the Senate president.
Yes.
He should be at such. So when you talk about the party, who is the party?
Is the Senate president not the
party? He's
party?
not a member of the party. Going back to Lai Mohammed's statement, it was very unfortunate for you to say that Buhari is not the leader of the party. Who then is the leader of the party?
If you don't consider the number 3 citizen, the Senate president, to be high up enough.
So which party are you talking about? I mean, if you're having a caucus meeting and Saraki is not there,
then what are we talking about?
What are we talking about here? But Saraki is a smart one.
You think he played his game well?
Well, on the moral front, maybe not, but on politicians really when it comes to
Many of his supporters think that he still would have won if all the senators had been in the Senate. And
especially if they had a secret ballot. Even some of the so-called 51 senators, we know these people. Some of them are happy that he emerged. They don't want to
secretly.
They don't want. No, look, even if a man has helped you get up to a certain position, you don't want every time that somebody knocks your door, is him coming to ask for something.
Yes, reminding you.
You want to be a man now. You want to be able to stand like a man. I maintain that moving ahead, all these dictatorial tendencies in the political landscape, the PDP must have learned their lesson by now. Over time, with the young people coming in, it's going to become unacceptable. I'm not going to belong. That's probably why I'm not in politics. I can't be a politician. I want to aspire to be maybe a councillor, a local government chairman, and I have to go and sit down somewhere until about 2 a.m. waiting for one man to endorse me. I can't get involved in that kind of racket.
And that endorsement isn't final. You can
It's
still
not final.
be asked.
It happened. One or two of them that I'm close to, I've had the ambitions truncated at the last minute.
When you say last minute, like
a day before primaries. I don't want to go into the details.
Yes.
Now. And I've seen that happen. And it can't go on like that. Luckily, your state is been eliminated to a large extent with the death of my good friend Adedibo. I love that guy. When I say I loved him, I did agree with all the things that he did. But he was a character to be with. I sit with him for hours, just looking at him and studying him. But you see, these people, the times when, what was his own style? Impoverish people, let them line up for stipends, and then you grab all those days. Even Saraki's dad did the same thing in the Kuala and so on. Those days are gone. You're having a more discerning, very, very active. See what the next elections will look like. Look at the caliber of people, the elites who got involved in politics this time around. Because everybody's woken up. So nobody's going to sit down somewhere and say this is who is going. And I'm suspecting there is going to be a third medium-sized party.
Will it be as a result of a break
if the
in the APC?
If the APC don't handle themselves well,
yes,
and the PDP don't handle their losses well, if the Jonathan group still believe they want to hold on to power, whatever it takes in the PDP, they're going to have a lot of the people from the PDP pull out, and from that, and then they'll form a third party. When the APC were emerging, everybody thought it was impossible. See where that thought got them. So you might have a third party that would leave the PDP itself deeply battered. It won't happen now.
Yes.
That there's still the honeypot everybody's still trying to get. But as we move towards the elections in 4 years' time, I think people should watch out unless they tidy up the inside.
Do you see Saraki's positioning now as Senate President in the light of anything in the future, 2019? People say everyone is positioning themselves because of 2019.
2019 is far off, and all things being equal, that has to be seriously underlined. Buhari will go for a second term. Yes, it appears Saraki has a political ambition.
Yes.
How acceptable he is to the general public is not yet tested in reality. And he will have an article and other people to contend with. But his early days yet. And 4 years, in fact, 24 hours in the political whatever. It depends on what he makes out of this Senate presidency. I think that's why he's in a rush and he's briefing this one. And he's carrying out briefings as if he's the president.
Yes.
Go get this one back and go get that one back. We have an executive president. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So we'll see how it goes.
Join us again after the break. So what is 60 Minutes with Angela all about? It's not an interview. I like to think it's a conversation between two people making the news, people who are in the news, and those who become the news. And the whole idea is to inform, to educate, or to clarify, as the case may be. It is an art getting people to answer the questions that everyone is thinking in their minds. And that's what we try to do on 60 Minutes with Angela. I ask all the questions that everyone's thinking about and no one wants to voice. All the questions you always wanted to ask. You get those answers on 60 Minutes with Angela. Every week on this station, 60 Minutes with Angela, getting answers to every question you always wanted to ask. Welcome back. My concluding moments now with Mr. Jimi Disu. So, what did you think that NEC achieved in the end, the NEC meeting of the APC? You know, a lot of people were expectant, but I don't know what you expected from that.
I didn't expect anything. What I think is that the status quo is going to remain. The other people will just have to fall in line.
And accept the
And
leadership
accept
of the National Assembly.
Are you going to say that we should go back and vote another Senate president? It's not going to happen. If you did this, I guess you. Actually, it's just one group that is, they're the ones who are dissatisfied, and that's the ACN group. They should just bury the hatchet and move on and see what they can grab. You have a situation where before the results were announced, Atiku had congratulated Saraki. The president hadn't congratulated him directly, but he did and said that he wished he followed whatever, but he still congratulated him.
Yes.
The job is done. It's done. I think it was contrived from the beginning, and we all know who the target was. Every time I watched it on the various channels,
Yes.
even some of the PDP people would say something to the effect that, well, we are voting this way because we can't afford that the fate of Nigeria should be decided
by
from
one
man
man
sitting room.
Yes.
And we all know who that one man they were referring to.
Do you think it is because of that one man that perhaps Femi Gbaja lost the speakership as
Of course
well? If he wasn't the candidate of anyone, standing
Well,
alone.
I don't know. Amongst them, I don't know. But I don't think having jumped the fence during the Tambuwal thing would have helped him. That was a bit immature.
Yes.
And we are talking speaker here. But I don't know what goes. You know, this election of whatever is amongst themselves. But I'm sure that that's one of the things that they would have considered. You need a very composed person. But his biggest albatross was his links to this man. If I were Buhari,
yes,
I wouldn't want that kind of speaker. In politics, I think it's better if you are cool, calm, and collected,
yes,
and don't show little elements of what I would call rascality. It helps when you move forward. When you
Yes.
show that you're cool. Look at Tambuwal, look at the way he carried himself
Yes.
for the 4 years. Even the PDP guys couldn't touch him. That helps more than trying to be a rabble-rouser. The fun thing is that if you're a rabble-rouser, it's good, but you're going to have a ceiling. When it gets to
and you can't go past that.
You can't go past that. When it gets to certain positions, they're going to be saying that, oh, no, let's watch him. You know, it's unpredictable. We don't know how. All this will be going on behind your back, and these are people who will be saying, yes, you must be the one. But they'll be saying these things behind your back.
Do you think Bukola Saraki has anything to apologize for to the party? Disobeying the party directives, for instance?
I think he'll have a lot to apologize for to his conscience.
Not to anyone.
Not to anyone. And that would be asking himself, how do people perceive me? How do they see me? Every time they have a meeting or whatever,
Yes.
if he has the same constitution that I have, he'll be a bit uncomfortable. Probably feel better and safer amongst the PDP guys.
Yeah.
Also look at, you have two people handling one job in the presidency now. Conflicting statements. Today, Additional is making a statement, another day she will go back. I think President Buhari needs to kick one of them to some other job and let one man handle his job. I'm looking forward to the day you'll have a president who might not necessarily pick a journalist as his director of publicity, because it's a job that calls for strategic thinking.
Yes.
Additional made the first goof by sending some tweet about the PDP. I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah, the wailing wailers.
Wailing wailers. That is completely unexpected of a president's spokesperson. I think that job is for a very matured person, a strategist. It doesn't have to be a journalist, you know. But that's, as I always say, it's a story for another day.
Maybe they think convention determines that because it's speaking.
It's one thing for you to speak. It's another thing for you to have things to speak about. I know a professor in Unilag, exceptionally brilliant woman, but she doesn't speak well. But if you look at the content of what she has said, she's a very, very strategic thinker.
Yes.
I mean, so that's what it is. Not so much how you speak. No, I don't think that's enough. Or being a journalist. No, you must be somebody who can, rather than be defensive, you can go on the offensive.
Yes.
I mean, when I say offensive, I don't mean it. I mean that you can make sure that people follow you rather than you following them. And things like, what was it again?
The wailing wailers.
That's not. The presidency is
Not acceptable.
It's a sacred institution. And now, let me quickly add. Additional must learn to pass certain things to the party spokesperson. All this political banter, he should get himself out of it and pass it to, let the politicians take care of that. You are talking for the presidency and the president. It's a sacred institution. get involved in all this mudslinging and things like that, whaling whalers and so on and so forth. You should go and find a way to retract that tweet. And unfortunately, once the tweet has gone, it keeps going on.
Well, a tweet is a tweet. Is a tweet. Thank you, Mr. Disu.
Thank you very much.
1 month on, one wonders what Nigeria's new president, Muhammadu Buhari, is thinking about the state of the nation. So far, there's been no appointment on ministers. Mr. President is operating without a cabinet. There is no secretary to the government of the federation. He doesn't have a chief of staff yet. And we're told there will be no Federal Executive Council meeting before September, prompting the Vanguard in its editorial to call him a virtual sole administrator. His special advisor on media and publicity, Femi Adesina, has been on the program a few times. Now I'm speaking with him on phone from the presidential villa in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. I was reading you on Twitter. You said if PDP has begun to cry wolf where there was none on the INEC chairman, then they should be set for louder lamentations. The wailing wailers. A lot of people are calling for your neck on that, you know, but that's the humorous side that I think you're trying to bring to the job. Would I be right?
I think you're not wrong.
But would you agree with those who said that 2 INEC bosses within 8 hours shows signs of unpreparedness on the part of Buhari's administration? After all, we're already 1 month out of 4 years. We still don't have a cabinet. We still don't have chief of staff, a secretary to the government of the federation. And so the change that people wanted and the magician they thought President Buhari was seems to be fizzling out. Many are worried that the relationship, the people who voted him in, will become cynical as time goes on. What would be your response to that?
You know, I think this is a very, very basis of what is happening. People wanted a magician. And the president needs to show that he is not a magician. Magic is make-believe. But the change he wants to bring to bear is something that is going to be permanent. Magic is something that is flimsy, that is ephemeral, that's it. That is why he doesn't want to be cast in the mold of a magician. Because he becomes doing all the body shaking and all the wild pirouettes and causing everybody to applaud. They will applaud and at the end of the day, then no space, no fundamental change.
Yes.
So that is why he has decided not to toe that path. He wants to be contemplating, to be painstaking, and to clean the wrongs. And I tell you, there's a lot more. That wrong will not be cleaned if it comes in the mold of the magician. So clean the wrong, lay solid foundation, and build an enduring structure of it will necessarily take the time and the approach that is necessary.
All right.
So now, what I'll tell the people who are getting impatient is that they should not forget that they are the ones who gave it a 4-year mandate. And they don't begin to get impatient after a month. It's a 4-year mandate. This job will get done. But it will not get done without them, without their support, without their understanding, without their patience. So that's just what I'd like to say.
Okay. Can you confirm to us the stories making the rounds that some former government officials are already refunding monies that they allegedly misappropriated while in power?
Well, all I can say is that, yes, the administration is bent on recovering money, and it has very, very important leads on how these monies can be recovered. It is working on it, and there have been pledges and cooperations even from international circles. Various leads are coming in on where money is salted away in different parts of the world. Such monies will be recovered. Whether some are returning voluntarily, I cannot say categorically, but I've heard the story too. But If anyone returns voluntarily, I think it's good for that person. Because it's better to return it voluntarily than to have the noose tighten around him eventually.
Okay. I want to take you now to the problems in the National Assembly, the election of a Senate President and the Speaker. Mr. President's decision not to be involved in that process, saying that he will work with anyone that they elect. What would be your reaction to statements by many Nigerians who think that that was actually a mistake on his part? Because he needs to push through his vision and his programs through the National Assembly, and not having his men there would be a minus for him.
You see, Mr. President's position was the right and proper thing to have done. It was the democratic thing to have done. It was the constitutional thing to have done, because there is separation of powers between the executive and the legislature. But then, if there was any mistake, I would say it was because Mr. President thought everyone was decent. It was because Mr. President thought everyone would play politics of principle. It was because Mr. President believes in party supremacy, and so he thought every other person would share the same belief. But it turned out not to be so. We see that those who behaved dishonorably are the ones who did not submit to party supremacy, who did not submit to decency, and who did not submit to honor. So that is why what happened. Mr. President's position would just have been perfect if everybody had played honorably and submitted to the party, which was the platform on which they all got to us.
Okay. So can you confirm to us whether or not the relationship between Mr. President and the Senate President, Bukola Saraki, and the Speaker, Dogara, is strained? Have you issued invitations to them? Have they attended? Have they had the audience of Mr. President?
I can only confirm that there are serious attempts to mend the relationship. You can't say the relationship will remain the same after some people had behaved the way they behaved. The party had a position, and Mr. President had said, do it honorably, and I'll work with anybody that is mighty. And then some people act the way they acted, and you say the relationship will remain normal and natural. No, it may not. But then I can confirm that yes, there are efforts to restore cohesion to the party. As we speak, there was a meeting that started late last night and ended in the wee hours. So there are efforts being made to restore amity and tranquility and cohesion to the party.
Okay. And then Mr. President was elected on three major platforms: anti-corruption, insecurity, and of course, the economy. On anti-corruption, we know his stance. There's no new news there. But people are still skeptical about that stance, given the fact of the circumstances of his emergence within his party. And of course, we're seeing politics begin to play out. This is 1 month into the administration. Mr. Adesina, would you say that the reality has hit Mr. President, and you all know that it won't be easy to govern this country?
Well, I believe it's never easy to govern any country. Even running a family has its issues. Not to talk of running a company or running a society or running a church or running a mosque or running a whole country. It's never easy to run a country. But then ability and capacity are what matters. And I believe that the president has the ability, he has the capacity to run this country. And eventually, if our people are patient, if our people are supportive, if they keep faith, they will see that President Muhammadu Buhari will bring about change that is lasting and enduring in this country.
And the enduring change is, we're already seeing that invitation to the White House on the 20th day of July. Can you tell us more about the itinerary? What will be the topics of discussion between President Buhari and President Obama?
Yeah, thank you. You can be sure two things will feature prominently. One will be insurgency. During the G7 meeting in Germany, the G7 leaders promised to help Nigeria, one, battle insurgency, two, rebuild the devastated area of the Northeast. So I'm sure they will proceed further on that. But in battling insurgency, what Nigeria would need from them would be intelligence. It's not that they're going to send troops there or something like that. No,
Yes.
intelligence. Just aid our troops with intelligence so that once and for all, these insurgents can be routed and there can be peace in the country. And then since they have offered to also help rebuild, Mr. President has said in the meeting with the governors that he's not going to ask them for cash. Rather, he will want them to come in and help with the rebuilding of infrastructure. So I'm sure that will feature prominently. And then again, tracking stolen money. It's going to feature prominently in the meeting with President Obama. Our president has said it, that it was President Obama who even offered during the G7 meeting
Yes.
to help Nigeria retrieve stolen funds. And at this meeting coming up July 20th, I'm sure that will come up again. Oh, and of course there will be other bilateral issues.
Yes.
But you can be sure that insurgency and anti-corruption are going to take pride and place on the agenda.
All right. And the joint summit of leaders of Economic Community of West African States and the Central African States, that's ECOWAS and ECAS, that joint summit of the leaders due to hold. Can you give us a day on that yet?
No, there's no date because the president of the ECOWAS Commission visited and told our president that that meeting was to have held in March. But because of our general elections, it had to be shifted forward. So I guess that they will agree to remain confident and comfortable for all the member countries that that summit is coming.
And is Mr. President aware that Nigerians are eagerly awaiting his cabinet, his announcement on ministers?
Very much aware, so very much.
Or is this a way to cut down on the cost of governance? You know, as we're seeing a lot of the governors reduce the number of commissioners from 20-something to 13.
You know that was even a campaign issue.
Yes.
The cost of governance will be reduced.
Yes.
So it's gratifying that it's even starting from the state. And you can be sure that if the presidency will likely see something like that. And the Constitution mandates the president to appoint a minister from every state. So it means that the minimum will get to the 36 states. But the Constitution is not insistent that all of them must be full ministers. And I know that what has been recommended by the Ahmed Jordan Committee is that there be about 19 full ministers and 17 junior ministers. That will cut costs considerably if that is adopted by government.
As the APC says, 1 month on, they think Mr. President has delivered. What can you say to those who are his supporters out there who are a little bit worried that his pace seems slow?
I'll just adopt this quotation. Easy does easy. They stumble and run too fast. That's what I'll adopt. Easy does it. They stumble and run too fast. Our situation now does not call for next speed. Rather, it calls for contemplative approach as the president has adopted. And I'm sure that all through yesterday he kept meeting different permanent secretaries who are placing him on situations in their ministry. He needed all this information. He needed them. Even in appointing ministers, he needed all this information.
Yes.
When that process is completed,
so
you will see that he will come out with the guidance and best that Nigeria can afford.
So it's not as if because there are no ministers there, work isn't going on in the ministries.
No. In fact, work is going on perfectly because permanent secretaries are heads of the bureaucracy in the different ministries. So they are running the ministry. Nothing is stalled. Everything is going on. There is a head of service in place. There are permanent secretaries in place. There are director generals in place. So the bureaucracy is running. And the bureaucracy is the heart of government. So it is running.
Thank you very much. I'll leave you to get back to work, Mr. Adishino. Thank you for watching. I'm Angela Ajitumobi. See you next time.